All right, so it's 1:01 and I will call this workshop to order. Do we do roll call for workshops?
You can.
Do we have to?
I don't know that you have to,
Okay.
because
Okay.
you're not making decisions at the
Okay.
workshop.
Well, let's just recap. Today, we're discussing our goals for the year, and we have some ideas that are started, but we wanted to spend some time fleshing them out so they're a little bit more specific and actionable. And I believe Elena sent out, did you get a chance to send out, Elena, the template? I responded to you several days later. So.
Yeah, no, I did send it out to everybody, and I do have it up. I can share my screen whenever you're ready.
Okay, so before we jump into that, is there anything else anybody feels compelled to talk about or bring up this today? Okay, goals it is. All right, so I asked Elena to let us borrow the template that City Council used for their goal setting, because I thought it was a nice visual that we could follow. So I believe in the City Council one, the blue bands were sort of broad themes. So they were specific categories of things that they were committed to creating goals around. And then below those would be the actual actionable goals with the details. Does that sound right, Jerry? Okay, so I don't think we have necessarily those broader categories, but Elena put in the items that we were talking about. And I don't know, did City Council develop their broader categories based off of anything? It seems like there's like community engagement and sustainability and
Denise kind of developed the goal sheet. So she just took basically took what we talked about as our goals and then just made the
categories,
yeah.
Buckets. Okay, so I don't know if we want to make buckets or if we just want to work with what we have and go. Should we just start with what we have and we can make broader buckets later if we feel the need? All right, if you're on Zoom, you should all unmute so that you feel like you can jump in at any time and join the conversation.
Sure, Erin, sounds great.
Thank you.
What we have.
Okay. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with SMART goals, but that's something that we use a lot at the college. The SMART stands for specific, measurable, actionable,
Achievable.
Oh, well, I think there's two. Okay, so A's
Okay.
can be achievable or actionable. R is relevant and T is time bound. Is that what the T is?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just sort of a cute little acronym that we can use to help us make sure that our goals are not just wishes, but something that we can actually get done. So the first goal that we discussed was finish developing the charter. So we can start by coming up with maybe a target date. And then if there's any additional steps or benchmarks that we want to put in there that would help us see that we're getting to the goal, that could be helpful.
Well, just a question real quick, because I actually didn't join until after you guys had already started working on the charter. So what exactly do we have left to accomplish on that?
Now we're digging off the cobwebs. Did Shannon join yet? She on? Okay. Who remembers? I think we had just completed a mission statement. So we all voted on and agreed to a mission statement. And the charter was a little broader in what we were talking about. And that was what we still wanted to flush out and discuss. I think we were having a lot of discussion about language in that, and we agreed to vote on and approved the mission, and then said we would come back and continue those conversations and try to flush out and agree to a specific charter. Does that sound correct for all y'all?
Yes.
Thank you. I feel like we should pull up our chairs like closer to the screen so we can see you.
I'm so
Do you have a-
sorry about that. My audio wasn't working, but it's working now.
Okay, thank you. Jenny, do you have any other questions specific to?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So basically, what does a charter entail? Because you said we have the mission statement. Are there chunks of it that like little sections, or what exactly are we looking for in order to finish it up?
Probably a refresher. And then, I mean, it could just be a short discussion and a vote. But I don't alone remember all the specifics for it.
Charter's basically supposed to show your, like your visions, your objectives, what your responsibility is, what your responsibilities are, and, you know, how you operate basically is what the charter should entail.
So I actually just found, and I guess I printed off a lot of stuff when I first joined. So I just found that apparently we had the Clackamas Community College DEIC charter. And I don't know if that was something we were using to base ours off of at all, because it has the mission, purpose, guidelines for interaction, definitions, and some other sections. So is that what we're looking to do then?
That was definitely something that we were using as sort of a template, I think. Obviously, I think first step in completing this goal would be reviewing previous minutes and all of the materials that accompanied it. Does Christina or does anybody else have any additional memories of that process?
That sounds about right.
It does.
All right, so considering what those of us that were engaged in those conversations remember, what do we think could be an appropriate timeline for completing the charter?
I would suggest that if the charter has different sections, like if there's the mission, the vision, the, what were the other things that you said? The guidelines for interaction, that you break it down into those chunks and give a deadline for each of those. That way it's a little easier to move forward on it.
Okay, and what part were we hung up on? Was it the like vision? Does anybody remember?
I do
It was-
not recall.
Yeah, it was
Well-
prior to me. You have a mission statement in the shared Google Drive. And it has a mission statement and then strategies and objectives. So I don't know if these were approved or if this was where you got hung up. And I can share that.
We could probably search through previous minutes and do a
Mhm.
Control F for charter in any of them also.
Was one of the things that we were working on as part of it, membership, so they have chair positions, appointed positions, assigned positions. Do we have all of our positions figured out? I know you're the chair, Aaron, and then I believe Shannon is the co-chair, or I don't know what Shannon is technically.
I don't think we have a co-chair anymore.
No. So would
She's the vice, I think the vice chair or Shannon something.
so would that be a section that we would be working on then? Is determining those roles?
I
And
think
there-
I think that we were talking about what roles we were gonna play with the other committees, and we were talking about how we wanted to attend some of those meetings. Sorry about that. Attend some of those meetings. That's what I remember the last part that we were trying to work through.
On the charter,
Or maybe I'm
Now that I see a visual, I think we did well with the mission statement, but I think we were still kind of not through the strategy and objective area.
and this is all just
I could be
guiding documentation that will help as new members move on eventually and, come on to the committee to understand the broad overview of the work that we're committed to doing.
I think it would be helpful to develop more specific roles within our committee, because right now we're trying to figure out like who does the minutes, who does this. If Aaron weren't available, who would be the chair? So that when there's new members, if somebody is the chair, then the next person who's coming in would either, we'd have to figure out like a role change in that sense.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do we have a like an example of one? I thought we did, but so we can look at it and know like a template.
Mhm.
So we can break it down into those chunks.
Yeah, that's what the Clackamas Community College
Yeah, this
one
one right
is, I
here.
think.
So-
Yeah.
So we
Can
can
you see
just
that
like
now?
said, right?
Yes.
She
Yeah.
we can do
Yep, I
that.
just brought up the template from Clackamas Community College.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so I
thought we
think
did.
we can go through that. We have the mission. Do we have the purpose? Do we want to include a purpose?
Mhm.
So we can just go through this chunk by chunk and figure out what we want to create for ourselves. So we have a mission. Do we want a purpose, guys?
I would like a purpose.
Okay, so purpose would be on our to-do then.
So I think that this should be, the charter should be at the minimum, at least a workshop. Just set it up as a workshop. Everybody review this document or any other documents that you can find. Come to the workshop with some information and what you would like to see in the charter. And then, but I think it should be done over a completely separate workshop than this. Basically what you guys should be deciding today is if the charter should be one of your goals for the year. And then basically a timeline that you think it would take to finish the charter, or the timeline in which you would like to see the charter finished.
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to figure out what exactly it entails. So if we want to postpone creating a SMART goal for developing the charter until we can have that workshop, I don't know if that would be good, or if we want to just do a guesstimate and maybe plan for our next second Monday workshop to be working on the charter, unless we have something that's higher priority.
Mhm.
I think like breaking down the charter like to the next workshop meeting, we would do purpose and chair positions or appointed positions.
Mhm.
And then from there, do whatever else we decide to add to our charter. And so the part of the SMART goals would be complete this part of the charter by this date. So by the next workshop, we complete purpose statement and assigned roles.
Is that because there is a membership section in the Clackamas.
Yeah. And it describes the roles, which it sounds like this is considerably larger than our committee. So I don't know if we need, 2 pages of roles, but yeah,
17 members.
17 members. Yes.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Okay.
Seems like very doable.
So what I hear is that you want to, for your next steps, set a meeting, a workshop, and you will review the previous materials and set purpose and committee roles.
At least, but let's not limit ourselves to that. If that kind of goes quickly, then
Okay. So we can at least put a target date in for those items.
yeah. I mean, I would say if we were doing, because we've set up a workshop every month, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yes.
I would hope that within 3 months or 3 workshops that we were wrapping this up.
Okay.
Some of the work that's in that charter is stuff that will be helpful for us in our communications of the equity lens. There's definitions included in this that we may choose to include in ours, which might help with some of those future communications also.
I'm going to switch screen share. Hold on. I just added a couple dates to this. So if you, you said in 3 months you want to be done developing the charter, which would put us at 7/11. That would be our workshop in July.
3 Slurpees for everyone if we can do it.
There you go. And then review the previous minutes materials, set up the workshop for 5/9, review strategies, objectives. And I don't know if you can take your purpose out of the strategies and objectives that you already have. So I just put question mark there. And then you'll develop committee roles. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Are we ready to move on to our second goal?
Okay.
Yes.
So gathering demographic information, the purpose of which is so that we can better tell the story of who our community is and know to make sure that all of our community is in some way represented in the committees or governing or different opportunities within the city. So I believe we have a few different websites that we know. So we have some resources together.
Yeah, did you guys receive the email from Michelle from the library, the Estacada Public Library? Okay, she said it bounced and we weren't sure if it went through. She gave us a couple other websites. The Portland State Population Research Center has a bunch of demographic information about the city and that their staff have been helpful, she said.
The problem that we've seen on council using Portland State's information is it's outdated.
Yeah.
It's extremely outdated, especially with the growth that we've had in the last like 3 years. So I mean, it's a good guideline, but it's not accurate information anymore. And once the housing needs analysis is finished, we'll have better information. But I mean that's still a little ways out. So.
But there's also the census data, and there was another website that I believe.
The American Community Survey is done every year. It's done through the census. It is, it has the same kind of information that's included in the census, but it's not as accurate as the census data because they just take a polling. So with smaller communities like ours, there's a larger margin of error. But the census was 2 years ago, which for some things is probably still fairly accurate. I don't imagine you're changing huge difference in the demographics of the community, like the ages and the ethnicities. I can't imagine that's changed significantly in the past 2 years.
Our population has doubled. So, and,
Since 2020?
since 2019, 2018.
Somewhere I have written down also just there was one other.
So maybe the first step in this is to identify sources.
That sounds like a great first step. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, do we have an idea of when you want the, I'm sure that, you know, once you get the demographic information, you're going to have to be looking at it every year to update it. But do you have an idea of when you would like this information, at least the, you know, the first go around completed by?
I don't know. So we're saying the charter we'd have developed, I mean, because I feel again, like this is like, let's go to the library and sit on the computers and pull up the information that it's so identifying the sources, then collecting all the data and then finding a way to do some sort of a graphic representation or like how would we share this information
Mhm.
or other steps, but.
Yeah.
And having it live possibly on our webpage or, yeah, the city website would be great.
Does the city do some kind of demographics every year? Sorry, I've got a huge echo in my ear.
Yeah, we get the information, Portland State does the annual population survey, and they will email the city and ask for information such as your amount of building permits you've issued and that kind of things for them to kind of extrapolate that data. It's not necessarily, as Jerry said, always accurate, but we don't do that kind of survey ourselves every year.
But we give them the information to get their, so if it's not very accurate, wouldn't it be what we give them?
You know, there are formulas in place that they base the information off of. And because our growth hasn't necessarily fit within the standard formula, that we're not necessarily, it's not as accurate as it could be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
You would think we could do this. I don't know. I would imagine that later on after we get all the information and have it like a yearly thing for the city council to get and then disseminate to everybody, all their council, you know, all their committees.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Elena, can we notate on there that this will be and some element of this will be annual.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can move it around. It's on there now, so we can recognize that you want to do it annually.
It might almost be easier to consider when we would be doing our annual review every year instead of the
Mhm.
first go round. But do we know when data becomes available? Is there new
Yeah.
data available from any of these sources every year? I mean, that would be part of figuring it out, right? Like how often is these different data sources updated? And then building our reviews and sharing around those timelines.
Yeah, I am real quick researching the Population Research Center out of PSU to find out when they do that.
And that could be part of this goal too, is figuring all
Mhm.
that out for future timelines.
Yeah. It looks like they do their measurements ending in July and then release it in December.
Okay, so that's one of the sources we'll look at.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe just adding one step on there is something about the timeline, establishing a timeline for annual review, kind of utilizing the release dates from sources.
So I think it would probably be pretty good to just say December for this. It's the end of the year. That's a great time to be looking at data and reviewing it. Does that seem reasonable?
Yes, but I think we could probably identify source. So that's the entire goal can be completed then, but maybe identifying sources can be done
Mhm.
earlier.
Okay. And this doesn't, the identifying sources doesn't have to be a meeting. That can be something that people on their own time are looking up and then just emailing me the information.
Yes, so let's say by like June, that's an easy one. We can do it. Let's just give ourselves
Okay.
a deadline and stick to it.
Okay. June 13th would be your next workshop in June.
Sounds
I like
great.
that.
And then somewhere between that and December will be steps 2 and 3.
Okay. We can, at the June workshop, we can discuss the dates for the others. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Should we put that in our, the notes? Yeah, right there.
Okay.
Okay, so our next category was developing an engagement plan, which then had some specific activities connected to it. So creating a promotional plan, engaging with community groups, and co-hosting listening sessions with council.
Now, I kind of paraphrased some of your goals in this area because your goal that you had established, the number 3 said, develop a plan on how to reach out to the community, possible promotion of the work through the water bill insert. And so I kind of broke that down to this, you create a promotional plan. I felt that kind of coalesced all that information into one thing.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
Well, you are considering you're going to be done developing the charter on 7/11, so you could potentially create a promotional plan on the meeting after that. The 8 workshop, unless any of these others you feel are more timely that you want to do before that.
So I think it'd be smart to have our charter and the equity lens operational before we did a listening session with the city council. I mean, and was that? So one of the things that we wanted to do was to discuss the equity lens with city council. Is that considered a sub goal of continuing the development of the equity lens?
You do have that scheduled for April 25th at 6 p.m.
Okay. So we may want to prioritize. Where did we leave off with the questions that we were addressing from Paul Strobel?
Hello?
Yes.
Sorry, my mic wasn't working for a
Okay.
while. Please continue.
So Jessica, did we finish? Do we have more stuff to discuss about the equity lens based off of Paul's questions?
From my understanding, we had moved it to discuss it with the council just to get a
Okay.
clearer idea of what kind of answers they're looking for.
Okay. I mean, I feel like we would need to prepare for that meeting with the city council. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but.
I think that we were coming up with a pretty good idea of what we wanted to talk about. I think the only thing that we were having difficulty with was some of the budget questions, if that makes sense. Like how budget factors in.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, and the compensation question, like adequate compensation, we weren't sure how that would even apply, I guess.
And part of what you wanted to do when you met with council was discuss how you saw the equity lens in use. So develop or look at some past decision-making and discuss scenario-wise how this would have been used in these decisions, or just make up random scenarios.
Right. Okay.
Now you have on your calendar still the meeting at 1 o'clock on the 25th. So did you want to go to that meeting at 1 and then again meet again with the council that evening at 6?
Only if we needed to prepare any scenarios, or I don't know what you all think, but.
How about you guys can email me scenarios and then I will collect them all, email them out to the group, and then by next week you can decide if you want to meet again at 1 instead of just at 6 with them. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay.
can you please explain exactly what a scenario would look like with your, what is kind of our homework, so.
Yeah, so how I have seen, let's talk about the budget, how I've seen this used in other communities is they'll look at the budget and see if where they are attributing money on the budget has a measurable impact based on, the equity lens questions. So do we put, is the money that we're putting into parks, is that creating, an equitable basis for the community, right? Is it helping move the community forward, or is it, having a negative impact? I was just listening to a podcast that was talking about planning, and they were talking specifically about snow clearing, which is kind of, fitting today. But it was this Scandinavian country, and they're looking at snow clearing and how that had an impact on the residents of the city. And what they had done previously was clear the streets and then clear the sidewalks. And they discovered that that had a greater negative impact on young people, old people, and people with disabilities, because they're the ones who use the sidewalks more. And so they switched, it didn't cost more money. They just switched the order of clearing the snow and cleared the sidewalks first, and then cleared the streets so that it had a more equitable impact to the community.
Thank you, that helps me understand very well.
Okay.
Okay,
So one scenario that you guys could look at is a few months ago, there was a group of homeowners up on was this 4th going up Reagan Hill. The homeowners on the right-hand side wanted to change the city charter based on the growth of, I can't remember the term, but basically weeds and like blackberry bushes and stuff like that going on, on a very, so that, I don't know if you guys know that area, but it's not a very safe place to be, doing weeding and, cutting out blackberries, and they grow so thick in there. But city charter says, or the city code says it's not allowed. And they came to council, a group of the homeowners came to council asking us to change the charter based on, how hard it is to clear that out. And that it also is kind of a security system for their backyards, being that they don't have fences and stuff up there. So, I mean, that's one scenario you guys can look at that actually pertains to the city of Estacada. I can't remember how long ago it was, but it was a few months ago, a couple months ago.
and we could come up with some like really obvious ones that aren't real.
Mhm.
But like if you had a certain group in the community that lived in one area and their park was not being maintained in the same way that a different population in a different part of the community, like that more resources were going to, just talking about resource distribution. I think there's lots of really obvious examples. And then we can use real ones, and we can even think about, talking about how the Main Street project is going to be coming up soon, and what kinds of questions should we be thinking about before we embark on a big project like that? Who would we want to engage? Who's impacted by that work? I think just going through and just asking a lot of questions maybe would bring more understanding to the process. Okay, but that's our homework, to come up with some scenarios or topics, broad discussions.
Okay.
Okay.
So back to the goal setting. I think we'll know more about co-hosting a listening session. Maybe that's a topic we can approach with city council at that meeting as well for the future. So I don't know if we can set that date until we determine their appetite for doing something like that.
Okay.
Engaging with community groups. So is that the same as engaging with other city committees?
Yeah,
Okay, so we already have one that we're working on, correct, with the Arts Commission? Like, do we want like our every year to connect with one of the other councils or committees or commissions?
now I know you're discussing it with the Arts Commission to do an event. And if that event is downtown, you could circle in the downtown Estacada Commission also. Make it all three of you working together on an event.
Yeah. Oh, and the mural, the third mural on the Dollar General, that was the
Yes.
other opportunity.
That was down here, event.
Okay. Okay.
Partner.
So events are different than engagement.
Yeah, you
I guess
just,
that's a question.
yeah, you had number 5 on your goals, engage other committees and commissions. And then number 8, partner with other committees, commissions on a community event. And I think the engagement is more along the lines of the equity lens and the use of the equity lens and how the other committees, commissions could use the lens in their work.
Well, and I'd imagine that the engage with community group section would be what we talked about possibly working with city staff and having members of our committee attending other meetings and stuff too.
So does this one, all of these under development engagement plan needs to come after we work out any kinks with the equity lens? Is that an order that we want to? I mean, although that's, hopefully we'll have those kinks worked out here real soon, but.
I think it would be a good idea to have our equity lens done before we interact in that way.
So based off of the meeting on the 25th, we will hopefully have feedback and clarity. And so there should be some sort of work that we do on the next iteration of the equity lens based off of that meeting. And then, so we'll need some sort of editing to happen. And then after that, we can begin engaging.
What exactly do we need to have ready for that meeting so that we're prepared?
I think reading Paul's questions again to have an understanding about where some of the gaps in understanding might be so that we can be prepared to answer those questions and just understanding the definitions so we can have a conversation and then those scenarios so that we can kind of all talk through it.
One recommendation that I can make before that meeting is to make sure all of you know and understand your current equity lens so that when questions do come up, it's not just the same person answering, all the questions, but, just know and understand your current equity lens, what you're trying to accomplish with, with it, and how you want it to, or how, just basically knowing and understanding what you're, what we're going to be asking about is that equity lens. So just,
Know the product that we're selling.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And we have that's been emailed to us, correct? It's one of the
It's in the community Google
community.
Shared drive.
shared drive.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. Thank you.
And I can email these all out again before the 25th, probably next week when I get the scenarios from everyone. And then you have it all compact, one email. It's easy to access.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, so Elena, can we add a step in after discussing with council for the equity lens that whatever our next meeting is that we're going over edits, or if somebody chooses to take the feedback and just kind of edit the document, that we're then just discussing the latest iteration at the next meeting,
Okay. So your next regular meeting in May.
or whatever the next time we meet after April 25th.
So your workshop meeting would be May 9th, and then your next regular meeting would be May 23rd.
Okay, so I'd suggest May 9th.
Okay.
We didn't have anything else slated for that.
You did have the
All the
charter.
charter work.
Yeah,
And that could be tied into.
Right. I mean, I'm hoping that the equity lens, my hope is that somebody says, you know what, I'm going to type up these things, and then we'll just be able to look over like, okay, here's the adjustments based on what we discussed at that meeting.
Mhm.
And that, because we've already agreed to the equity lens as it is, and it'll just be, do we agree to whatever improvements have been suggested? So possibly it would be a quick portion of the workshop.
And as you guys are reading through that equity lens, if you have questions, I mean, you have a wealth of knowledge, and in this group, you guys can email questions to Elena, and then the answers can come from the group. You just can't reply all, but if somebody has a question, they email it to Elena emails it out to everybody. And then if you have an answer, email it to Elena, and then Elena can, then forward that answer. But I just want to, like I said, I just want to make sure that you guys are coming into that meeting with an understanding of the equity lens, and what it means. So, yeah, thank you.
And I'm hoping they don't, I mean, I don't think any of us are experts. Obviously, we're more familiar with it than most. But I think it's a learning journey that we're all engaging on together. So understanding, I think the reasoning behind the purpose of the equity lens is the most important part, right? So as long as we can all have our little elevator speech on the purpose of an equity lens, I think that's the most important thing to come to that meeting with. Okay, so back to the engagement. I think we're doing good on the equity lens now. Like, is there any time of year that makes sense to co-host a listening session with the council? Is there times of year when there's more engagement or?
I would say if you're hoping that this listening session will impact the goals that the council sets, you might do it before their goal setting session.
Okay, goals and budget, probably.
Mhm.
Now, is this listening session just a meeting with council, or is this a listening session where DEIC and council get together and listen to the community? That's my question, is that which
I don't remember what we talked about specifically, but I'm hoping it's that we're inviting groups to come and speak about any challenges they see in relationship to equity, inclusion, diversity in the community. Did we have specific comments, Elena, from before?
You not specifically in the goals. The goals just says recommend that the DEIC co-host a listening session with the city council. But I believe that it was meant to be a community listening session.
Okay. And I think I just saw that Wilsonville I think they started DEI at a very similar time as we did. And they, I just saw something in the news about them hosting some sort of listening session. So I think that's a smart thing for us to do. Okay, so goal setting just happened, right? It's at the beginning of the year. And budgeting, do those happen next to each other?
I'm not sure when, I'm sure Jerry could tell us when the goal setting
Just
budget
did goals.
is just, yeah.
We did our goals. Budget is coming up.
Yep.
I don't think we've set dates for the budget meeting, well, at least for council being involved in the budget meetings yet. But yeah, I mean, it's coming up within the next, I think it's May
Yeah,
or-
I believe Sadie
May.
said that May 9th or 10th. I remember I
Yeah.
applied for a grant and she's like, oh, that's the day after the budget committee meeting, but.
Yeah, yeah, I think it
Yeah.
does happen in May.
Mhm.
So would we do like winter listening sessions, or, I mean, is it just one? And if so, then it could be in like January or February.
Mhm. Yeah, or November or December.
Mhm.
Around the holidays is always hard to get engagement though.
Right.
People are busy.
I know one of our further down goals is the committee and commission vacancies. So I know that we'll want to try and fit those in before the end of the year. So I would say maybe the listening session in January or February sounds good to me. Just because I know we're hoping to give recommendations to council, and they'll need time to make the adjustments before the terms for all the committees expire in December, so they can have all that rolled out in January. So I want to make sure we don't forget about that as we're planning things, that one has kind of a hard set timeline.
That makes sense. So
Okay,
yeah,
so do
let's,
we want to put the committee commission vacancies then? Do you want to make that a deadline of December? Or do we want to make the deadline in November?
let's make the deadline. I mean, I think after we do the charter and equity lens work, that maybe this becomes the next. So we have, I would see, do y'all think that the committee vacancies should come before we do data reviews, or not? Maybe we need the data from the community to inform the vacancy work. Okay, Jerry says data first and then vacancies. So when did we put the data stuff?
Well, we said to identify sources by 6/13 and then to discuss deadline for meeting the remainder of the steps at that June meeting. And we did put the end, we would have the charter finished by 7/11. So are you looking at maybe August then?
Yeah, maybe let's put August for
Okay.
that. That gives us some room.
I
Okay.
figure if our terms or whatever terms are expiring are up in December, I don't remember the exact timeline, they'll need about 30 days for the applications to be out. So whatever recommendations we submit have to go to council. Council has to make their decisions on what they're gonna do, and then those decisions have to be implemented prior to like the beginning of November. So we just have to make sure that we can get our information to city council in time for them to take action on it.
Do you have any feelings about if August is doable, or are you feeling like that's putting us at too close of a timeline?
Are you asking me?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
Miss Date person.
I don't know how fast stuff works. Like if we send something to city council, I don't know if they add that to a long list of things they already have going on, or if that becomes an immediate agenda item. So I don't know how it works on their end. I feel like the earlier we can get the recommendation in, the earlier they know to try and prioritize it within whatever else they have going on. And they will hopefully understand that it needs to be done prior to terms ending and applications being due.
So if you guys want something on our agenda and you deem that it's urgent, city staff will make sure that it makes the agenda before that, that time, that deadline that we have to be able to, use it moving forward. So, I mean, if you guys finished it in November and wanted it on our, our 1 December meeting that we have, city staff can make that happen. So, I mean, if you deem something urgent to make to make it onto the city council agenda, just get with city staff and they will get it on there. But I think, August, if you guys had this worked out by, August or even September, would give plenty of time for it to make a council meeting, plenty of time for us to make a decision on it and move forward.
Okay, I know one of the things that we wanted to do was possibly change the application. So I just want to make sure that city staff has time to make those changes. And if they have to run that by city council multiple times, adjusting things, I just want to make sure everyone has time.
Okay, so under the event, partnering with community groups, should we put the potential mural? Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you for having the real words.
Yeah. Did they say that was in June? I don't remember that what the date was.
I think they're finishing it in July.
July.
Yeah.
And that's when the celebration unveiling would be.
Mhm.
Carl Haugen would be the person on the Arts Commission well, Nicole McMerrick also, but Carl Haugen is he's the one on the, that's in the Art Back group. And then of course, Nicole McMerrick is just a great person as a contact with the Arts Commission. So those are the two people that would be the best to speak with on that.
I might be butchering their names, but I will go back and get them right.
I did speak to Nicole McMerrick about this and she threw out another name, Katinka Brick, I believe. She sent me her contact info. I believe she's part of the Art Back. So she would be a good contact as well.
So our steps is we need somebody to reach out to those folks, right?
Mhm.
So
And decide what, I guess that would be in conjunction with them, but decide what type of an event. That would be after the reach out.
but the Arts Commission is partnering with Art Back already, and it's just that we may.
No, not necessarily. It's just there's a member of the Art Back on the Arts Commission. And the plans for that is listening to Carl speak to the plans of that mural. It's fascinating. It's really cool.
Okay, so it's just a reach out to say, hey, we hear this is happening. We're looking to see if there's ways that we can be engaged or support the effort. So, I mean, that should happen soon, right? We should
Yeah.
be reaching out and connecting with them soon.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody want to, or would we like send an email to you, Elena, and you would send it on our behalf to those folks, or?
I would think for this, it would be appropriate if you had 1 or 2 people who wanted to be kind of a subcommittee on this and work with the Arts Commission.
Okay,
I'd love to talk to Nicole about what they're wanting to plan. I thought that I was told that they were wanting to do were they saying they want to do a festival but it was going to be kind of in smaller bits spread across the summer.
I
Well,
think that
that's
was
a
summer celebration.
Yeah, that's summer
Yeah.
celebration. That's different. They want this to be something in the, their idea was to have to work with you guys in the fall on an event, but the Art Back mural is in July, so the unveiling of the Art Back mural is in July, so.
Okay, so that's why that's where the mural comes in. Okay, thank you.
But being at their meeting, they don't have anything planned, any ideas. So I think the next step should just be an official, meeting with them, throwing ideas out there, talking to them with the Arts Commission to see what, what everybody's plan, what everybody's idea is. Cause I don't think that, I don't know how the communications have gone between DEI and Arts Commission, but I definitely think the first step should be communication and just try to figure out what everybody's ideas, get on the same page,
I'm happy to continue working on that with Nicole. From my understanding, it was that the Art Back event is kind of a separate thing from the Arts Commission, and I haven't heard that the Arts Commission is necessarily going to take part in anything involving the mural event. So yes, I can keep chatting with her about that and see if they're planning on doing that, or if this is something we need to work directly with the Art Back on.
Thank you. So when I was talking earlier about big buckets, is this something that we want to say that every year we want to participate in one community event partner? I would see in the blue band where it says event, like we could have sort of our annual, like every year DEI commits to partnering with one community group in an event or something. Like, is that something we want to work towards every year?
I think that'd be a great way to show the community what our purpose is. I like that.
Because some of our buckets, some of it's just logistical works and still figuring out, the policies and procedures. Like every year we're going to work on updating or giving recommendations to different policies or code or processes. And every year we should partner for events. And so I think while we're kind of making our annual goals, we're also creating the structure that the committee will create goals in moving forward. And that's like what our priorities are. And maybe some of this is in our charter also. So do we want to put any dates on
Well,
this one?
I think, Jenny, do you think that you could, our next meeting, not considering the 25th, because that will be our council co-meeting, will be the 9th. We actually have a lot on the schedule on the 9th already. After that, the 23rd. Do you think May 23rd? Yeah.
But I think we could put for the date for the potential Art Back mural event in July, just put July as the target date. And then we'll have additional steps after Jenny contacts and maybe figures out a little bit more about what the possibilities are, that we'll have more specific dates before then.
Okay.
And maybe when we do our annual goals in the future, we'll have sort of like a larger bucket, like a month that we want to focus on doing the different things, themes in our plan. And then there will be more specific dates as we work towards those.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the last
So-
section is the engagement plan.
Yep.
Where don't we have stuff right now? Like the September, October?
Yeah, so
Mhm.
we have August. So then, yeah, September, October, November.
So I'd say let's pick October. I think we're gonna have other things that get pushed. Maybe.
Mhm. So
And would-
October 10th for the
Sure.
promotional plan?
Sure.
Okay.
And does engaging with community groups, I mean, that's a part of the promotional plan.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just bear in mind when you're doing this, you're gonna have at the most one meeting in November and at the most one meeting in December because of holidays, so.
And we did discuss putting this listening session in January of next year. Isn't that what we discussed earlier?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we
Okay.
said January or February.
I got an idea.
Okay.
Can we get rid of the development and engagement plan, that part,
Mhm.
and put the co-host listening session with city council, add that to events?
You want to put co-host listening session with city council down here under the events?
Yeah, and make it another section. So you have that event going on with the art back and stuff, and then another event going on with city council. It's still an event. And then get rid of that other section.
So you're suggesting that you don't have the engagement plan at all?
Right, have it more of a event plan instead of an engagement plan.
Trina, I had the same kind of questions at the beginning, but then Elena reminded me that the engagement plan is more, it's less the events side of what we want to do and more of the, how do we support different committees and groups in the community with DEI related things. Like, so how can we help another committee utilize the equity lens in the work that they do? So it's kind of more of the like the business side versus the fun side.
Yeah, and one of the things that you had listed in your, because this goal was pretty fleshed out in your goals, was possible promotion of the work of the DEIC through water bill insert in order to get the word out so people can participate.
Yeah.
So if that's one of the things you want to create as part of the promotional plan is this, flyer for the water bill, maybe prior to the listening session, that could be your item here for promotional plan is create a flyer for the water bill.
I think the engagement is also how we kind of lay out the welcome mat for the community so people can approach us with issues or things that they're interested in related to DEI that might help guide some of the other work, or like, hey, we should review that part of the city code because somebody has said that something about that doesn't feel equitable. So I mean, I think it's possible that we could have engagement activities that happen at events also, where if we table at an event to just have a couple DEI members available to chat with people and just show that we're out here and listening. But I do think they are two distinct things. And maybe it's just the words we're using.
Mhm. I mean, we could move the co-host listening session with council to events. It could be considered an event. But I would say, engaging with community groups is more ongoing. An event is usually one time.
Yeah, I get now why there's two sections.
Okay, I think we have some pretty good structure in here now. It's better than it was, and we may need to adjust things or flesh things out a little bit more as we do them.
Mhm.
Do you all feel like this is in a good place to kind of get started with the work?
Yeah, I think that.
I
Yes, you can
can.
say hi.
Yeah, you want to say hi? Sorry, I'm a bit distracted today.
So I can fix all the formatting issues and email this back out to everybody probably by tomorrow. And then you can look at it and see if there's anything that you feel needs to be added or anything you want to change, and email it back to me and we can discuss that at the next meeting.
Okay. That sounds good. Thank you, Elena, for all of
Yeah.
your support.
No problem.
Okay, is there anything else that anybody wanted to discuss? Are you all ready to be done at 11 after?
Does
I did-
anybody volunteer to do minutes from this meeting? Because it will be recorded and I'll post it on the website.
I can type up the meetings. If that's all right with you guys.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you,
I
Shannon.
also wanted to share that you can watch the Wilsonville listening session, because I like to have examples of stuff to understand how it works. It's on Let's Talk Wilsonville, which is really easy to find. I was gonna share it, but I don't think we don't have a questions and answers, so. If that helps anybody else.
If you want to share, send that like to Elena, then maybe she could send it out to
Okay,
all of us.
I will
Mhm.
do
Yeah.
that.
That'd be good. Okay, well, I think then, unless there's any objection, that we will adjourn the workshop. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.